Welcome back to the Brennan Page. I'm Dwayne Page.
And this is Kyle Brennan. Today we're just gonna fucking talk.
Today we're just chatting.
Yeah.
Just chatting. I wanna start out by saying that it's an interesting it's a summer of golf for me. That's the way I would
Really?
describe it. Yeah.
I got the impression you were golfing less than last year.
I am golfing less, but my focus, my energy, my passion is golf right now because it's first summer in since I started playing baseball that I don't have like a team that I'm a part of this summer, which is it's an interesting
Yeah,
experience.
what that's been like.
What that's been like.
I
Well
don't
said.
know.
Well said. It's we're keeping everything, by the way. It's not going away.
It's okay.
But
Answer the question.
yeah, it's interesting. I haven't done this yet, but I intend to do this. Um, I've like a couple kids that I train, like players that I train, because I'm still doing lessons and everything right now. Um, a couple of kids that I train, I've been thinking about because their dad's like, oh, come down, watch a game, whatever. So I think I might like go watch some of the guys that I train in a couple games here and there. They're playing locally. I've even considered going to watch some of my buddies coach, like watch their teams, maybe do some recruiting while I'm at it. Um, but yeah, it's the
Next thing you
summer
know,
of
you turn
Dwayne.
into Lou Petrucci,
Yeah, nah.
and you're just at all the games all the time.
I don't know if that's on the agenda, but it would be nice. It'd be nice to experience a travel
It'll be cool
baseball
to see
game.
the kids that you've been doing lessons with play.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's been interesting. It's not really too weird. It's weird not having practices and stuff to go to and games to coach, but yeah, just wanted some flexibility with the schedule. Travel baseball is it's good. It's kind of draining in some ways, like anything is, but I just need some flexibility. Spend some extra time with the family when I can. I was just in near Lake Ontario like 2 weekends ago, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about that, and there's events like that that you can't always go to when
No,
you're coaching a team unless you saw it coming from 3 months away and you've put that down as one of your dates that you're not available for or something like that.
yeah, and even then though, you don't always get that time not not approved, but it's like, oh, this weekend I have you know a family reunion or some shit like that, and then you get the tournament schedule, and it's like, of course, I'm in, Massachusetts or some shit like that, and you're like, well, you can't always get somebody to go out and coach your team on an away tournament, so you're more than likely missing that family occasion, which it could be part of anything, like any job could result in missing things, but when you do what I'm doing in regards to private travel baseball, there's no PTO, there's no somebody to cover your shift, so to speak. So it's tough.
Yeah. Have you been doing the same amount of lessons or more now because you don't have the team, or what's that like?
Um, I would say more. Like I'm training some more guys more consistently. It's pretty much a lot of the same guys that I've been training for a while now. A couple newer kids. The newer guys are like pretty young though, which is fun. I always enjoy. It depends. Like if you're when I'm coaching college ball, or if I'm coaching like a varsity level travel baseball team, or I'm coaching varsity baseball and I'm in the middle of a season taking like a 6 or 7 year old, or even a 10, 11 year old is can be tough because it's quite a change in gears. You're going from refining players that are either already good or have some potential to somebody who is just, a blank slate of clay, and but the energy is great. Like that's what I appreciate from them, honestly.
The energy is good, but you also have an idea of you're living what they. Excuse me.
Hairball.
Again, yeah, I don't know what's going on. Uh, but you're like, let's say you're coaching high school. Uh, you're experiencing the day to day of what a person in their late teens or high school career, what they're going through, and then to have a kid that's 7 or 8 or 12, like it's fresh in your mind what they're headed towards.
Yeah.
So I find that it's easy in those instances. Yes, you have to shift gears, but it makes it clear like what they have to
With the
work
young guys,
towards.
you're saying?
Yeah,
Yeah, and honestly, the best kids that not even talent wise, but the best lesson learning environment that I have with the younger players, their parents are like, "Oh, he just loves it. He's having so much fun and I just want him to get better and have some consistent practice, have another voice, those kinds of things." It's the easiest to train guys like that when their parents are just, here he is. He likes baseball and stuff. Like, get after it.
so one of the things I wanted to ask you, given this time we're recording this on June 16th, uh, at this point in the year with the guys you're giving lessons to, what's the focus with that? I haven't given lessons at this point in the year.
It depends because, like, I'll give you an example. Some of my varsity level guys, um, it could be like a feel good day. Like sometimes, like most of my guys that are of that level, like I said, I'm training on like a weekly basis, so I'm seeing them all the time. It's sort of they mo and again, it's unique, I guess, because like I said, I've been training these guys for a good amount of time. I feel like fortunately enough for me, most of my guys that are of that level have an idea of what they're doing, and I feel like they know their swing pretty well. So it's it's a lot of like managing and teaching them how to manage themselves in regards to their approach to hitting and their approach to the game. Um, when it comes to hitting in particular, if things are going well for them, they feel good. It's it could be like a feel good day. It could be like, all right, let's do some warm up on the tee, or let's do some med ball like hitting prep work. Um, and then maybe do some angled flips if a particular pitch is feeling uncomfortable, some BP, and then some machine work. Let's get ourselves ready to face them. Oh, they all want to see like velocity, and we talk about like the preparation in regards to using the machine for getting ready for a game is confidence. It's not necessarily like the style is, hey, this is being treated like an at bat, not a round of batting practice, of feel good batting practice. Like let's 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 put some good swings on some tougher pitches. Maybe some of those good swings, the result isn't ideal, but let's put some good swings on some tougher pitches and feel confident going into the weekend.
Yeah, the changing of the expectation for certain drills can really make all the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Where if a guy's you're just throwing easy BP to them or something, or you're throwing flips, like they're especially if you do this on the field, their expectation is they want to hit 5 out of 6 balls on a line, good backspin in the gaps, and like those are good goals or aspirations for the round. But when you're facing something difficult, it's really easy to get beat by a few or be late or clip one, and now all of a sudden the player's mentality just plummets,
Mm-hmm.
especially on the field because the results are more like real.
Yeah.
And guys can really just like get frustrated really fast when you flip it to where like, hey, we're competing. If you missed 4 or 5 and you get one and and everyone celebrates that one, then it puts them in that compete mode.
Yeah. And when I say feel good, it's not what you might think in regards to like, hey, let's just take it easy. For me, feel good is finding our focus on what makes us feel good. you know? So when I say feel good, I'm talking about being able to put the ball where you want to in the cage off of the tee. So we might do like a drill where I want you to kind of move around like the tee's going to stay in the same spot. You're going to move around the box and try to put the ball to the left side, right side, up the middle. Like, cuz that feels good. I've had coaches in the past that were a little bit more old school, and what I loved that they said was that good hitters can hit any pitch wherever they want. Like, good hitters can do what they want with pitches, pretty much. And I agree with that to an extent, and watching guys move the ball around the cage, see their confidence go up, feel good in a sense that, hey, let's feel athletic. So I like what I see. Like I've been telling you, or I've told you in weeks past, that incorporating some of the med ball stuff with these guys really helps with them being able to move, especially guys that don't move particularly well. Taking the bat out of their hand and throwing the med ball around has been good for those guys. And then when you get over to the machine, I'm talking about feel good in regards to what we just said. Like feeling good about being able to do something that's challenging. So,
Yeah, that could be different for a lot of guys. I know that Michael Brantley, when he was down rehabbing a couple years ago, and I had the privilege of just being there for it. And he would say for him, now he's not like everyone, but for him, if he could get the feels he wants off the tee, and he could kind of like square himself off with that, then take a couple rounds of flips. He's like, if I can do that, like I can play. I'm good. I can figure out the timing. I trust my ability to make contact, all that. I'll do my homework on the pitcher, but like once I have the feel and like I know where my swing is, then I'm good. And then there's other big leaguers we have that are still playing, so I won't say who, but there's other guys that need to hit velo off the machine for 25 minutes until they've kind of like calmed their nerves and they've got a little bit fatigued and they're like, okay, like I'm ready. Not because they finally got the swing they wanted. It was more just going through and that feeling of like they worked and prepared.
mm-hmm.
And those are two completely different things. Not to say one's like I wouldn't prescribe one or the other, but to your point, like feel good. I think it's more of a like an easing of the mind,
Yeah,
just feeling ready.
it's
Or
confidence. Building
yeah,
that confidence going into a competition is so big. But I feel like I have to do so much of that with these guys, and it's really it's interesting because it's like managing it's like coaching a team anyways, in some regards, where they come in, and I always want to talk to my guys, especially that I'm training consistently, when we first get in there, be like, hey, what's going on? How do you feel? How's your swing feel? How's your team doing? How are your at bats? All this stuff. And their focus gets to mostly, oh, my swing doesn't feel this, my swing doesn't feel that, or I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. And I'm like, we got to kind of take a couple steps back and say, all right, well, like, what do your outs look like? What pitches are you swinging at? Like, what counts are you getting into? And those things help paint a better picture, And I can't tell you how many times I had this happen with one of my guys in the spring season, where he's like, yeah, I feel like, I've made a couple hard outs, like I've had a couple hits here and there, but I'm not hitting the ball the way I want to. And then I'm like, all right, well, he's a really big kid and he was playing JV, and he's like, I'm just not, driving the ball the way I want to, this, that, the other thing. And I said, are you getting a lot of good pitches to hit? And he's like, no, I'm walking like 85% of the time. I'm like, well, like you could have led with that, you know? But here's a kid that is, you know, like 15 years old, and to him being successful is hitting doubles, which is reasonable. It's reason that's what you want to do. You want to hit doubles, you want to drive the ball. But when you take a step back and say, I'm not chasing these shitty pitches and I'm taking my walks, like, yeah, I wouldn't throw to you either if I was, 6 foot something at 15 years old. I wouldn't, want to be in the middle of the zone against you either. So these guys are nibbling and they don't have control because they're a JV pitcher, and when they try to nibble, it's a walk, you know?
It's tough, especially if you're walking a bunch, and then when you do put balls in play, you're getting out, and
Mm-hmm.
let's say the batting average isn't super high, or like, hey, if my goal is to hit doubles this year, and we're 3 weeks into the season and I have two, then usually guys will start to like they'll search for hits, and then they start to expand the zone a bit more, and they get out of the things that have been leading to the things they've been working on.
Yeah. But then, it's kind of my job to tailor what we're doing to that. So I might throw on a curveball machine where it's kind of in that could be a strike, could be a ball zone, and this is, again, this is not batting practice right now. I want you to hit the ball that looks like it's a strike. Like that's, you know what I mean? Instead of just swing at every, because it happens with a lot of hitters, especially the age of the hitters that I work with. It's we get on the machine and it's swing at every single pitch, or you know, which not ironically enough, but interestingly enough, I had a conversation on Saturday with one of my young guys. He's like 11. I just started training him like 2 months ago or something, and his dad is like, yeah, he just swings at like everything. And he came off a really good weekend. He hit like three triples. I was like, nice, dude. I don't think I've ever hit three triples in a weekend ever. So good for you. And he's like, yeah, but then he faced this pitcher and he got down to two strikes. He swung at a ball over his head. And I was like, listen, dude, like he's hitting well. We'll talk about approach in the future. But I said to the kid, I'm like, if you like the way a pitch looks, hit it. Like I want us to be aggressive. It's hard to you can coach aggressiveness in a hitter out of somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really hard to coach that back into them. When they become a little bit more passive, it's hard to coach that back into them. So that's kind of the dichotomy of that situation.
Yeah, we have a hitter that was the theme for much of the year. It's like a little bit late, but not that he was starting late and was everything late. It was more like the forward move and the aggressive nature wasn't there, or if it was too little, too late, kind of a thing.
Mm.
And he's made a good adjustment in the last couple of weeks. Like he's finally, felt what it means to be on time and aggressive and have more of a classical yes yes no approach. But it took him a while to feel what that is, and then to be comfortable enough to try it in a game and to trust it. And it took a lot of different conversations and different drills and different ways of framing it. So he's made the adjustment, but he started to improve. I'd say early, like the first couple days of June. The season started in April.
Yeah.
So it's like it's
Trust
to
the
your point.
process.
Like it's not something that you can just immediately be like, hey, do this more.
Yeah.
You know,
It's really the mental side of that is so big. It is. It's hard to trust something, and I can't imagine what it feels like being in an affiliate professional baseball environment and having to being first of all, the awareness is probably it was probably there pretty early on that an adjustment had to be made for that guy, and then you're trying to make that adjustment, and it's just like it's probably stressful.
yeah, a lot of the I was going to say battle, but it was not a battle.
So we're not in a war,
Oh,
bro. It's baseball.
no, battle implies like confrontation.
Yeah.
Something that we've been just working through with a few guys. I say we, me, and our manager helps a lot with the hitting side, which has been awesome, especially with some of the Latin guys. And like my Spanish is to a point where I can communicate with them. If there's a point I want to get across, like I can say it, they'll understand what I mean. If they say something back, at least if it's in regards to hitting, I know what they're saying. But like really identifying, connecting is still something I'm getting better with. and our manager's Dominican, so obviously that's a strength of his. But so something we've been working through with a lot of the guys is like it's one thing to be, like trust the process and be comfortable with failure, and like it's okay if the practice is hard and you don't have 100% success. Like our players for the most part expect that. Like that's just the way it is. Especially you're facing good pitching. Relative to their careers, this is the best pitching they've ever faced, and they're seeing it every night. So the idea of like not having success all the time is like they're experiencing it.
Mm.
But there's a difference between going into the cage and being like, okay, like I'm gonna work and I might not get every swing I want. I might be frustrated, but okay, let's we'll keep chipping away. We'll keep chipping away. And there's a difference between let me overcorrect in the direction of the adjustment I have to make, and then like have my mistakes be too much of what I'm trying to do. So in the case of this hitter we're referring to, like he had to be more aggressive, especially in the timing of his forward move and the anticipation of I'm going to hit this before I really know if I'm going to hit it. And when he finally started to do what we wanted, which was to have his hip start to move forward a little bit sooner, and for his the lower half to start to go maybe before he's completely decided to swing. And I gotta clean that up in a second because I just alluded that we're trying to just sell out in hack balls, but basically that's kind of what he needs to do in a way. And suddenly he was a little bit out in front on his front foot, and it was like he felt too early, and he was starting to roll balls and pull them foul or like hit hard ground balls to the first baseman. So obviously not what we want.
Just had to hold ground better,
Yeah, and he was frustrated after that round. I was like, listen, like that's the first time that like the failure you're experiencing in the cage is productive.
Yeah.
Because that's the timing you need. Once you get comfortable in that state and you keep the hands back and like you said, you're holding your backside better, then you'll start to stay through balls and you'll still be able to hold your swing if you decide it's an off speed that you don't want to hit. And then it's started to translate into the game, but it wasn't until he was willing to be uncomfortable, not just in like, hey, you're not having success, you're not
Like
feeling good in the cage.
physically uncomfortable, like in the other direction. It's funny because Mark talks about that sometimes. He's like, there'll be a guy just flaring balls the other way in the cage, and then they'll hook something when let's get down what feels like incredibly early. Let's get that, like saying that 17 times in a row and them still not doing it because they just don't trust it physically. And then they'll hook one and they'll be like, oh, I can't do it. I'm like, bro, that's where we want to be right now. Actually,
Right.
and I think I've said this on here, but I had a kid that I was training this winter, and same thing. I was throwing him batting practice, and I shit you not, it was probably 12 to 15 pitches in a row that he had hit foul to the opposite field, and I just like stopped and I came out. This is a high school guy, and I'm like, dude, like at what point in your brain are you gonna say I want to fucking just hook the ball right now and just feel something different? Because that is something I know for a fact. Listen, I'm sitting here, I'm still of age to be playing baseball, but I'm not, right? So I obviously wasn't good enough, right? But I can tell you for a fact that if I was taking a round of batting practice and I was just getting blown up, I'm like, oh, let me be really early right now and see what this feels like. Like I can tell you for a fact that went through a, high school or / travel baseball, college baseball brain, Dwayne's brain at some point,
I've it's interesting you bring that up. I have a whole bunch of questions written down of like things to ask you or just to for us to talk about, and one of them is something along the lines of what is an underrated aspect or trait about a player that like really helps them stand out, that might not otherwise
It's
be.
creativity, in my opinion, man. I really do. I believe that. I think the last 2 years, I think if there's been one thing I've focused on more than anything, it's creativity. And it's been more, this has been more relevant in my curriculum for my athletes in probably the last 10 or 11 months, just because I just see the value of it. I see the value of an athlete that can be creative, and then it goes into your life too. Like if you have the ability to not be stuck in the like if you have the ability to not get stuck in like the little like prehistoric like Neanderthal brain where you're in like this state of fight or flight in these moments of competition, if you have the capability to take that step back and take that wider scope look at things, and you can operate in that state, and tell yourself, like, have the creativity, whether it's to adjust your focus when you're evaluating how you're doing, which like I talked about with the JV kid earlier. If he is has the ability to say my batting average doesn't reflect what I'm doing right now because I'm not seeing the pitches that I want to see, his approach sticks. And then when he does see the pitches that he wants, which to his credit, he did stick to his approach. By the end of the freaking spring season, it was like double, 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 double. The kid was raking. And his dad's like texting me all the time. Oh my, he hit another double. This that. Like he was raking, and I was very happy for him because I know that's what he wanted. But I kept reminding him, like, this is because you stuck to your approach. You didn't chase. And he laughed. He's like, every once in a while I freaking fan at a curveball in the dirt. I'm like, yeah, because you're 15 and that's what, and everybody does shit like that, but it's not,
Big leaguers do that.
yeah, well,
That's baseball.
so that's the game we play. And creativity in the sense that when you feel something is off, if you have if it's almost like they need permission to be creative,
Mm.
because it's such a difficult game. And I can listen, I can relate in regards to freaking golf. When I'm sitting there trying to figure out how to not hit a mega slice at the driving range, or if I'm on a better example would be if I'm on the golf course and I'm trying to play well, relatively speaking, when I'm feeling like, dude, I'm gonna fucking hit a low shot through these, yeah, it's not always gonna work out. But when my mindset's like that, when my mindset is trying to be creative with what I'm doing on the golf course, I'm playing better. When I'm sitting there thinking about, I'm putting myself in a box and saying, I need to do this with my swing, you might as well just throw an 8 on the scorecard for that hole. You know what I mean? So it's just,
Where does creativity come from, or what curates that?
I think perspective. I think when they allow, I think perspective, if that makes sense. When they're able to, maybe it comes with a little bit of maturity, you know? Maybe it comes with a little bit of maturity. Maybe it comes with some experience. Um, but I used to think that when,
That's interesting because that you say it comes from maturity or from experience, because I think the most creative people are children.
that's fair. I yeah, that's fair. I think that makes sense. Like if you, when you say that, it makes it again. It just makes me think that it's coached out of people. It's like taught out of people. Like it's taught out of people, and that that's a fact because in school they literally have like creative writing classes. So it's just kind of retaught in some
Yeah, I
abstract
think
way.
what you were probably thinking when you said it's a perspective or it's a maturity, it's like you lose so much creativity through the way that, not even in sports, just the way the world we live in is.
Society, bro.
And then you get to the point where it's like, oh, I need to get back to that. And then you have that perspective, and then you start to work on it.
Yeah, but it feels unnatural at times. You know, like I used the example of like a creative writing course. Like, yeah, here's your creative writing course, but these are the parameters you need to work in.
Yeah.
Like I'm here to tell you that there's no fucking rules, all right? You know?
Yeah.
When you're operating within the confines of the law and you're a law-abiding citizen, of course, um, you're supposed to be creative. Why do everything looks so different all the time, man? I was watching. I'm like watching some. I watch a good amount of. This is probably the first summer I've been watching the most pro baseball. And I think some of it obviously has to do with the fact that I'm not coaching a team. It's more entertaining to me to take in a game on the TV. I like going over to my parents' house and watching a Yankee game with them. But I'm watching these guys, and you think about the this needs to happen in a good swing type people, and then I'm watching a game, and I'm like, that guy doesn't fucking do any of that. He's a big leaguer. So many people take that for granted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So many people take that for granted. This needs to happen. You need to be able to do this. You need to be able to do that. And I'm watching this guy flare a ball over the first baseman's head, you know, get an RBI or something. And again, I know it's not the ideal swing, the ideal situation, but that adjustability, that creativity. I think back to, you know, when we're talking about when we were really starting to implement like atypical plays into catcher metrics, and the poster child, you know, Logan O'Hoppe is making that crazy fucking throw behind that guy, and I'm like, yeah, like that's what makes him so fucking good. And I don't know if the All-Star voting's still out there, but make sure you vote for him, like as a beast. Um, yeah, but I just
Well, I think the people that say this needs to happen in the swing, it's too. What they're saying is too, like it encompasses too many things. Where it doesn't work in all situations. Therefore, the definition's too, like, specific or narrow. Whereas, like, those guys that hit the flare and they could somehow still get a hit out of it, the barrel probably stayed through the path of the ball, right? Which
yeah,
means that the way that they delivered the barrel or finished the swing or whatever, there's different terms for that. I don't know what the rest of the world uses, but basically the way that you stay through the ball and how you're holding the bat and all that, like that's important. And then you probably needed to, at least on your front leg, like you needed some sort of stop to keep yourself from just falling forward. Like those have to happen all the time.
yeah.
Now what that looks like is going to be completely different depending on the size and shape of the person and how they're like, without getting in the whole rabbit hole,
Where their
basically how
hip inserts are, and
yeah, and like how much they use their elasticity versus how much they use their like muscular nature and whatnot.
shut up, nerd.
Yeah, well, the point is, like, you could say all those things, and you could have something fairly specific to one player or one type of athlete with a certain skill set, then say, like, yeah, like you probably have to do all this, but then that would immediately be wrong for the guy who's hitting next. And you see that even more apparent at the big league level because you have freaks of freaks, you know, these guys that are super unique, or maybe not super unique, but they have something that's out like an outlier capability. Whereas like physically, Alex Bregman is not a super special big leaguer. He doesn't hit the ball super hard. He's not, you know, like there's certain ways he can't move or struggles to move with, but his vision's incredible and he's ridiculously smart. Fun fact about him is watch, I'm going to say this and then find out it's wrong, but rumor has it from people that know him that he is a 3-time New Mexico State chess champion in high school. Like of all, because we give players, whether it's a printout or
right now.
I'll have to go do that. You'll have to. We'll give players, and this not the everyone does this. You'll give players an iPad or some sort of printout of like, hey, here's some scouting report stuff, and It could be super simple, like this is what the pitch moves like, and this is how hard it is. It could be really complicated, like, hey, with runners on second and third in 2-1 counts, when the score is within two, he throws 37% sliders. Bregman's one of the only people that can look at the really granular one and actually like memorize it and think about it between pitches and not get completely domed up. So point being, maybe we shouldn't have all our hitters try to copy him.
Yeah.
If you don't have those other abilities, just like you shouldn't have every hitter try to hit like Matt Olson. I say that because we have a player or two of ours that are trying to copy aspects of him. But it's because they move in similar ways, and we think that that strategy might work for them. But,
Yeah, but then at the same time, you go to the other end of the spectrum with young guys, and I've seen several coaches, and I think this is interesting. I've seen several coaches online talk about how, when we were younger and we're hitting in the yard and we're playing wiffle ball, we're emulating these great hitters and we're trying out all these. I'm like, yeah, like, why not? You don't see kids doing that stuff anymore. I can't tell you like the classic. When the paper towel roll runs out, I got it, and I'm Gary Sheffield now. Like I love those memes. It's so funny. I probably have done Gary Sheffield and Robinson Cano swing a billion times when I was playing wiffle ball. You know.
yeah, and that exploration, or just being bored.
Dude, if I had never watched Robinson Cano hit, I never would have thought about maybe having an open stance. I implemented that to my to hitting for a good amount of time in my like high school age. I had an open stance for a while. And then I realized I don't move like that motherfucker. Surprise.
Yeah, I think like you need time and you need boredom
Yeah.
in order to be creative.
Yeah, I guess a
Um,
lot of it does come from that overstimulation too.
hmm
There's
and
too
just
much going on.
the stimulation, the structure, the like you don't have time between things.
In regards to you're talking about the I guess like intangible type things, like where would you fall in that category? Like what you find is valuable. Discipline.
Yeah, I mean the consistency is huge, but I think the guys that will go a swing or two without moving the way they want, and they'll try to change it. Not like they're changing their swing and they're looking for a new answer all the time, but they'll be like, "I just rolled over a ball or two, like let's go. You know what? Let me do the opposite here."
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't, like they'll be frustrated with it. That like man, like I can't get that, but then they can separate and just kind of hang around, be with their teammates, do whatever, and then when they come back in, it's like I'm going to get it now. Where the guys that I'm, that's just fresh in my mind. The guys that I'm observing that are doing well, that have done well, and that have moved up, or guys that have just made progress. The players that we didn't, as an organization, expect them to maybe be able to do certain things, and then they're showing us that they've been able to figure it out. The common theme I'm observing is that a seed will be planted of I want to get better at this, or this needs to change, or this is how it's going to work, and then they just keep chipping away at it, and they're stubborn in that if I'll give an example that's just simple for everyone to like. Let's say if someone their head keeps moving away from the ball. So they're going to swing, and during the swing, their head's moving away from the ball. They're standing up during the swing. Like they started, let's say, in a good position, and they just come up out of it. And that's the thing that we think is like the most important for them to work on. And they've identified it. That's the most important thing for me to work on. Like you could close your eyes and come back in 3 weeks, and they're still trying to do it. Now they might try a different drill. They might tweak something. Like they're not just going to do the same drill mindlessly, but they'll be consistent in what they're trying to get better with, and they're not going to let the fact that they missed a curveball last night or that they were late on a fastball one time completely change what it is that they're trying to get better at.
Yeah.
Now, if they are late on a couple fastballs, they're like, hey, I need to be more on time today. But that doesn't distract them from trying to keep their head in the same position as they're swinging, which was the initial goal. Yeah, I think just like the consistency in their ability to handle the monotony in
Monopoly's
a
tough.
yeah, monopoly's not a fun thing for anyone. Yeah, I don't know. That's what comes to mind. At least reflecting on how the year's been so far.
Yeah. I guess, some of that comes in some of the trust that is actually the issue at hand, comes into play. Like the hitter understands that this is of the utmost importance to kind of fixate on when you're working on the swing. And because, I'm sure you can attest to this, when your swing is not functioning in an optimal way, you could think it's like six different things when, if your staff is looking at you the way that hitting coaches look at, hitter swings these days and the way that they're evaluated, they could see the underlying issue, which might be causing you to feel like if something's wrong with that like with the posture and you're standing up, right? It could feel like maybe you're just like extending your arms early. It could feel like a number of different things. But if the staff is seeing that this is where your focus needs to be, it could be kind of, not so
Yeah,
comfortable trusting
especially
that.
with hitting, just given all the failure. Like there's a lot of. It's not hard to find what's wrong with a swing, or what's wrong with an approach or this or that. And frankly, there's times when even if guys are doing well, at this level, like it's professional baseball, but it's still very early in professional baseball, and you might look at a guy and be like, "There's like five things that need to get better," and you obviously can't tell a hitter to get better at five things at once. Probably shouldn't even tell them to get better at two things at once, unless they're not related at all. Like one could be timing, one could be something else, but even then, I think it's our job to figure out, to have some patience first, to figure out what you think the root cause of it is, and then okay, I think the most important thing is this. If we address that, then the other stuff should get better, or at least not be as big of a problem. Explain that to the hitter so they understand. Maybe not tell them, hey, here's five things that are wrong with you as a hitter, but say, like, if you get better at this will improve. Like, let's focus here. We're not going to do anything else. We're going to get really good at this. Just being super simple and then consistent after. It's easy to be like, okay, yeah, that's going to work. I do this drill. Oh, I like the feel of that. This drill is going to be the answer. The motivation's high and they start working on it. But then what happens in 6 or 7 days when you're still struggling and
You're not laser show.
yeah, the initial feel that you had doesn't work anymore. Like that cue you have suddenly stops working. Or you find some other drill where you think something else is going on, and like players they're searching for something else.
Does it happen at your level too, where, because this happens a lot with me, especially with younger players, where they make a swing that's 10 times better than what they're typically doing, but they foul the ball off, and you're like, please don't go away from that right now.
We were just talking about that yesterday. We had our his name's Nick Ortiz. He's our infield and base running coordinator, but he had been a big league coach with the Giants for 4 or 5 years, and he's managed in the minor leagues with the Yankees for on and off for 6-7 years, playing in the big leagues. Like he's a baseball lifer, and he was in town covering for one of our other coaches that took his 4 days off, and he said to them, he's like, you've got guys that are making the right move, but because it's different from what they were doing, they like hit the ball because they haven't like adjusted to it yet. and then it's like, no, that was good, but then they want to go back to the thing that's going to make them put the ball forward. Um, yeah, so now that happens. I haven't coached in the big leagues, but I've had conversations with coaches that have coached big leaguers, and that happens at that level too.
I mean, I believe it because it's something that I see so much. It's like, no, please, please don't go away from that right now.
Right. It's like, oh, that was better, foul off, and they're shaking their head, and then and you're like, yeah.
Listen, having the ability to, there are a couple guys that I train that are really good at that, and I'll say to them, if there's somebody that I feel like I've been training for a while and I think they have a pretty good understanding of what's going on, it'll be better swing, foul the ball off. No, that's good. Stick with that. That's good. Stick with that. And then maybe a nod from them. And then maybe I'll even take a second and be like, why? Like, do you agree with me because I just said that, or did you feel something? You know, like, did that feel better? If not really to test them, but I don't want them just saying, okay, yeah, because coach said that was better. That's better. Like, I want the feel to be different. I want that feel to be there, because once the feel's there, the timing adjustment comes along with it, and then we could be a little bit more consistent with the result. Because oftentimes that's what it is. You know, you're trying to make an adjustment, whether it's with the way that you're loading or the way that you're approaching swinging. The timing is just off, and then you just foul the ball off, but the move was better. So,
Yeah.
I just want guys to be able to think for themselves. God damn it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's definitely the underlying. That's true in the lower levels of professional baseball. As guys get the level I'm at, it's almost like the tale of two teams. We've got guys that have just come out of college that some of them are extremely mature. They're very professional. They understand, like, they might not see results now, but it's moving towards that, so they'll stay on that path. They're a little bit more, or a lot of it more, focused on the right things, and they can, I would say, not get distracted, but they can bounce back after the inevitable distraction. And then we have another group of players that are a couple years younger, didn't go to high school, barely middle school, and they're just at a completely different point in their maturity as a baseball player. And so it's like, I forget why I started to bring this up, but you have, like one group that's, they're mature. I think that's what you were getting at. Yeah. And then you have another group where you're teaching them these things, no different than you'd be working with a 15-year-old kid, and like that JV player that you're talking about, like similar point, as far as their mindset.
I feel like when you cover those things, the understanding becomes exponential. From my perspective, like to that JV kid, once some things are brought to his attention and the way that like success can be framed, once that the consistency has just been so much better for that player in particular. Like between, like, last summer was kind of,
once they have the understanding.
Like,
yes.
Last summer was kind of that first summer for him where it was just raking, and he had success when he was younger and on like little league fields and stuff, but then he kind of struggled his first year on the big fields. Does it help the fact that he's the size of a grown man height wise? Yeah, but at the same time that his approach to hitting is good. When something's not going well, I feel like this is what's happening. Why? Oh, this, like, it's a conversation, which Tommy Caputo talks about this all the time. Your goal as a hitting coach is like he says, oh, my goal as a hitting coach is to become a glorified batting practice thrower, essentially. And I think he said that on here too, but he like I feel the same way. Like if it could be the way I would frame that is if my lesson can feel more like a conversation and less, hey, do this, then if this happens, then do this. If the conversations can be more back and forth, then something's going well.
Yeah. No, I think, yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. As far as like probably why that player got better was, yes, he started to understand stuff and his approach was good and all that, but you can't start to understand those things if you're not comfortable like being vulnerable and talking through them with the coach or the parent or whoever or your teammate or whatever. And like getting to the point where he started to say, yeah, like I feel this, and he's either telling you because he identifies that him sharing that's going to be helpful, or he just feels comfortable saying what's going on and labeling it with you around. That's the getting to that point. It's like some players, they've learned that lesson and they're more trusting in that sense, and other players, like it takes a while for them to trust you or even like the pattern of all that. And creating that or curating that it's a much different process than knowing what the right drill is or like having the answer or sounding smart, which I think is so much. That's something that's been I think a big shift. One of these things I wrote down was like, because you've talked about something in the past where I think you got it from Cap, where you said something to the effect of like every 3 to 5 years, like the players change or something, you got to adjust. But it made me think like, what's something different about you and then myself that's changed for you as a coach in the last, call it 5 years or 7 or 3, whatever. 5 years ago for me, I was trying to really understand how the body worked, and how, like, from a biomechanical standpoint, things functioned, and how to best set up drills to improve things through that lens. I was interested in learning how to, before more information became like readily available, I was exploring the idea of learning how to code to be able to have an advantage there. Like, okay, if we really understand, like, at the time it was more catching, but like how catchers are receiving a certain pitch or not and what goes into that and some of the movement stuff and whatever, like how could that really affect how we're training guys from a skill standpoint, and then also from a physical standpoint, like can we improve certain mobility? Should we be acquiring different players? Like which ones would have more upside if we knew how to train them physically that could help them catch better or not? Like different things like that. That was the motivation. That was where I saw my career going. That was very what's the word?
Like I say, it's very
Ambition.
different from where you're at right now.
Yeah, the ambition there was like very specific, or very, I don't want to say narrow, but like that's the direction I was going, and that's where the industry has gone. Like if you flip open Instagram, it doesn't matter what your feed shows you. At some point, it's probably more worth hitting, but like something, the nature of what I just described is what you're being shown.
100%.
It's like, oh, let's objectify how the swing works. Let's figure out how the hip is. Like, let's use words like, let's create a external rotation within the hip acetabulum to create stability in the joint capsule. Like, I know what that means, but I feel like I sound so stupid saying that, even though a lot of people are trying to sound smart saying the same thing. And I don't know, I hit this point where it's like, it doesn't matter.
Yo, put mentally right now, put yourself in a cage with 10 pro hitters and say that in your mind. How do you feel like you look at that point?
I've seen people do it, and it doesn't get received well.
I never would have guessed that.
But so I guess the shift I'm alluding to is, it's like, if half your team or 2/3 of your team doesn't really speak English, I'm like, you should probably know how to speak Spanish. Or, hey, I'm telling the hitter these things and I'm setting up a drill, but only if I had 12 hitters, for example, I wasn't coaching hit at the time, but if I have 12 hitters and only two of them respond to that,
What are we doing?
six of them are like, who is this guy? And four of them, they're trying, but it's not helping. Then, yeah, I mean, the phrase is like, what are we doing? Well, the Tommy Weber has said this, I'm stealing it from him, where instead of saying, what are we doing? Like, what am I doing?
I love that.
It's like,
I love
it's
that.
easy to be like, what the
What the
fuck
fuck
are we
are we
doing?
doing?
What the fuck are we doing? And it's like, replace that with, what am I doing? Like, okay, in this situation, what am I doing? That's probably, at a minimum, not fixing this. If
Yeah.
anything, causing it. And yeah, like you have to be able to relate to and connect to the player. And yes, it's important that you understand the movement stuff. Like, listen, if you don't have an appreciation of how the body's going to move, then and how the brain learns things, and like I'm no neuroscientist, but like if you don't have a rough appreciation for how the brain learns things and how to best to set up a drill or an environment to curate that, and you don't know what's going on underneath the skin, then there's a lot of drills that you can do that would just be a waste of time or even counterproductive. So like that stuff's important. But if you can't get a player to the point, like you said, where they're starting to say things like, I'm feeling like I'm I'm thinking this and I can feel it, but I'm not sure if it's working. What do you think? What do you see? And the dialogue is open. Like until you get that point, the rest is useless.
I wash.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, that's if I were to turn around and sort of answer that, it's that my shift has gone from, especially as a hitting coach, it's been less. I mean, there like you said in regards to biomechanics. For me, it's making sure things happen a certain way, and things that I believe in that are important to hitting, and that stuff still stands. Like that stuff is still important, but at the same time, it's my shift has gone from that to having guys take accountability for themselves and take responsibility for what they're doing. Because I think that that's really important. That ownership piece is so key. Um, because if you don't have ownership over it is what you're doing, then if you don't have ownership over something like your baseball swing, how the fuck are you going to be successful when you're playing in a game? You're going in there with a swing that's been fabricated by a hitting coach that you don't know what the fuck's going on with because you just show up and you're a drone and you're going through the drills and everything. How are you going to be successful if you're not seeking to understand why this is going on, how this is working? And I'm not expecting, middle school, high school, and travel baseball kids to completely understand what all that means. But at the same time, it's if we can start those conversations early, because that's the one thing that I will say has stood the test of time, from the time I started coaching to now, is getting what is important to the player. Like that is the theme that has remained pretty consistent to me. But if we can start those conversations of ownership and responsibility and being accountable for what it is that you're doing and understanding why it is that you're doing those things, like as things make sense to you, you'll have more success because you'll have more confidence in what it is you're doing. And like we talked about earlier, confidence is so key in this game. What are we doing?
Something I I had two things I wanted to ask you, and I was trying to decide which one. The good news is I forgot the first one, so I'm going to ask you the second.
Perfect.
Actually, Taylor Jones asked us this to a degree, and this is something that I'm curious, and I think your perspective would be great for it. Like curating that confidence, what's the difference? Or how do you think about confidence versus arrogance, or what's too much or not enough, or maybe thinking of it like that is not the right way to think about it.
I mean, listen, you always want to be on the side of I say this and I'm gonna say this, and everybody that's listening, and myself included, can think of maybe a couple players that were way too fucking over the top. But I would rather be on the side of having to reel somebody in than trying to motivate them in that regard. I'm not even talking about just like energy and personality type, just that kind of that wanting for answers, that wanting for success. Like I'd
It's
rather,
much easier to explain to a player that thinks they're doing really good but aren't.
yeah,
It's easier to explain to them why they're not and to kind of push them and be like, no, you're wrong, than it is to build up someone who's doing okay but doesn't believe it.
yeah. No, that makes sense. That tracks.
And not to put the confident person in like a good light and the person that's struggling with it in like a bad light. It's much harder.
But that goes with anything, and it's skills that you need to acquire, regardless. Like I've mentioned this before on here. If you don't acquire these skills through baseball, right? We all have
What do you
an
mean these skills?
if we don't have the ability to believe in yourself and believe in what it is that you're doing and find a way to do that, if you don't find a way to do that in baseball, because like I was going to say, we all have an expiration date in this game, like you're going to have to do that in life. And you meant, and to go back kind of to what you talked about in regards to what's different now, versus 3, 4, 5 years ago, it's that I'm just recognizing that I'm pretty certain that almost 100% of the kids that I've coached are not pros. Like there might be a couple here and there, and I can't help but think, all right, well, if I'm coaching at a Division 3 baseball program and I'm coaching at a high school varsity program where most of the guys are going to like some D1s, some D2s, some D3s, some guys aren't even, going to play college baseball, and the same thing can be said for travel baseball. Like if you're coaching guys of that level, there's a life after baseball. So that means it's on the responsibility of me to implement things that will help them in their life too. Which that's another thing that's been something that's kind of fortified me in what I believe, because I've always been a big believer in developing communication skills with the players that I coach. I've always been an advocate for developing leadership and mentoring leadership, but what has changed has been that the creativity, which we keeps coming back up, is that if you can curate some creativity in the athletes that you're around, it will help them in their lives too. And that ability to kind of shift thought paradigms and be able to alter your perspective and look at things through a different lens, like those skills are so important as well. And if you don't learn those things through athletics at some point, you're going to have to learn them in your everyday life too.
Yeah, I started writing as you were talking there. I wrote down, you just said it again, but I'm gonna repeat it because I wrote it. You said if you don't learn these skills now, you'll have to in life, and you got me thinking. It's reminding me of a thought that I've had over the last couple of weeks. You said it where, like, listen, the majority of the kids, basically every kid that you coach, is not going to become a pro. And 90, I don't know what the number is, 97% or almost 100% of the players I'm coaching now will not become big leaguers. Now, when I say that, it's when people say, oh, he's a big leaguer, the general consensus is like a big leaguer is someone who plays more than he doesn't in the big leagues for a couple of years, not someone that debuted once and then they were played for 2 weeks sometimes and then they were back down in AAA. Like made it to the big leagues and be a big leaguer are two different things. Basically everyone in the minor leagues is not going to be a big leaguer. Although
Like in every, you're saying like in a like almost everyday type of player.
yeah, for more than like a year or two. Maybe I don't know. I mean, people will have
We'll say
different
3 years.
semantics.
That's fair.
Yeah, it might be less. I don't.
If you
But
don't
like,
agree, fuck you.
Yeah. Jeremy Pena, big leaguer. Um, Shortstop who's really highly talented, doing well in AAA. That's been up and down. Like played in the big leagues, not yet a big leaguer. In terms of the semantics of what people when people say that, but the besides the point. Um, Pretty much all the guys that I'm coaching, although it's our goal and the reason we show up is to get them, do whatever we can to help them get to the big leagues and help our big league team win. Or to get them to the point where some other organization wants them and we trade with them and they debut with some other team and we get something in return that helps our big league team win. That's what everyone's trying to do. Most players will not get to that point. So you could say, well, then, like, what's the point? And a lot of people feel that way. That not a lot, but it's common enough where coaches will come in the pro ball, and the fact that it's like we're not the low A team. The main reason we're here is not to beat the other low A team. Our goal is to what I just said, to help players get to the big leagues and help the Houston Astros beat the Minnesota Twins versus us trying to beat the Twins in low A. So like they lose some meaning in that. But to your point, the skills or the challenges that these players are facing, or the things that they're going to have to adjust or acquire, like if they don't now, they're in their late teens, early 20s, mid 20s. If they don't learn these things now, those skills are going to be tested again in life, with family, with relationship, with work, with whatever else. And something I've heard from you've said this, where you've always said something to the effect of, when I get frustrated at players not doing things right in practice, you foresee the pain or frustration they will go through later. Mm-hmm. Like if they don't base run correctly, if they don't cover first correctly or something, you can foresee them losing an important game on that play and then like having that negative experience, and you don't want that for them. Where it's like when players I'm working with, if they, for example, if someone is doing pretty good and they need to get better, yes, but like they're doing pretty good and they're just fixated on the failure and they're not, like the confidence within themselves isn't there, or their ability to like take the punches and just come back with a positive mindset. Like if they don't figure it out in time and they eventually get released and their career ends, like it does for all of us, then like, yeah, that's sad. But like that player is going to need to figure that out. It's going to come up again, and probably sooner than they think, because some of the, as we've talked about with a lot of our guests and each other, some of the toughest points that you're going to have in your early mid 20s are because you stopped playing and you stopped going to school, and your identity's shifting.
You're living, and you're trying to like live life and figure out what the fuck's going on, you know?
Right. So it's like you can see this baseball as a medium, like these opportunities to learn how to deal with certain adversity, or to change your mindset, or to make an adjustment, or to have a different perspective, work with teammates, all that sort of thing. It's an opportunity to prepare these guys for the inevitable that you and I have gone through, and that, things that we haven't experienced yet that are coming.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's when you look to some of the guys that you call or some people identify as great coaches, and in my mind, I have a very good respect for the guys that do a good job of winning baseball games, because you and I both know it's not fucking easy to do. It's not easy to have like a winning career as a coach, or to have like a win percentage that's high, like we talked about with Lou. Or if you just think about any quote unquote successful baseball coach, it's not fucking easy. But I have a different, there's like a different tier of coach that can impact players' lives in such a way where, I mean, I know Cap, that dude's been to a billion fucking weddings. Like that, like everybody wants him to be at their wedding, like that. And that says a lot. It really does, and it's not just, well, he was my college baseball coach and we played D1 or D2 and we won a this. Like, so a lot of times that does end up happening where you had success and you were an everyday player and you feel a connection because oftentimes those teams do have like a pretty good connection. So that does happen, but it's like this so and so is having a baby and is like sending a picture to Cap because like that guy it mentored them and now that guy's a dad and he feels more prepared to be a dad because of, and I'm not saying it's because of Tommy, because if I said that he'd probably fucking smack me in the head, but there are some things that he learned along the way that he feels Cap helped him get to that point, you know, and that's where I hold a different tier in my mind for coaches like that. And thank God I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of people like that, or at least a good amount of people like that. But it makes me say, well, that's where our focus should be. That's where my focus should be. If I'm not if this guy if the group in front of me and the players in front of me are not going to be big leaguers, which you know, I just want to say this caveat that as much as I might evaluate somebody in my mind through my experience and through my lens, I might evaluate somebody and say this guy's gonna play Division 3 baseball. I always leave a little space in my mind to be surprised or wrong. Like I will say that first and foremost. Like I'm okay with being wrong in my evaluation one way or the other. Whether it's they're going to quote unquote miss the mark of being a Division 3 baseball player, or maybe he's a Division 1 baseball player. Like I do understand that that's possible because that has happened, and I'm completely okay with that. But if I'm looking at somebody and I'm saying this guy's going to be a Division 3 baseball player, like my goal is now to help him be successful at whatever level he's going to go to, right? To enjoy it for what it is because it is a wonderful experience. And then on top of that, like let's start also help this guy acquire or help this athlete acquire some skills that will help them in their life because that's what matters.
Yeah, another thing that one of these list of things I have is like, what's a trait about um, someone as a leader that you admire but maybe like struggle with personally?
Uh
Um, well, not we could go into that separately, but the reason I brought it up was I don't know if it's necessarily a trait, but just that concept of the things the coaches I admire, whether they're my own coaches or others, is um, like they're creating that sort of relationship with the player,
yeah.
and it's not, and the way that I guess the part or to boil it into a single trait, because there are things that you know I feel like I'm good with as a leader or as a coach, and you could say the same about yourself. But the thing that I admire in others that I'm still working on is the ability to curate that respect and trust from the player in a way that's maybe not nice or not comfortable, but necessary. Where our manager's a really good example of this, where he's willing to say something that a player's not going to want to hear, but coming from a place of love. And it's like, no one's going to tell him this, but he needs to get better at it. And if he doesn't, then that's it for him. And I'm willing to go there and to go through that. And like he's comfortable with he has enough security in himself to tell like a player, or even other coaches, or even people that are above him on the hierarchy, like his willingness to tell something that they might not want to hear and they might like him less for, initially at least, like he'll weather that, and then he'll keep coming back and like be stubborn with it, and then eventually, you know, like gain their trust and be like, wow, this guy was actually willing to tell me this. I needed to hear this. Like he actually cared enough, and now all of a sudden this player's listening to every word that comes out of his mouth and is calling him 3 years after they've been released to ask him about something.
Yeah. That's not a common thing in
No,
like societally speaking these days. Everything
No,
has to be like feel good and the vibes are high, bro. Like if that's how everything has to be these days. But it's comfort, that ability to be uncomfortable and have uncomfortable conversations because like discomfort is really is like the catalyst for growth. I think like whoever it is that you're describing that does that, I think they understand that. And
no,
it's not
completely.
that they
Yeah.
don't care. Like I'm sure that there's a part of them that I wouldn't say like I don't think saying feel bad. They don't probably feel bad about what it is that they're doing. Like obviously they have some sort of empathy, but that's really an expression of like of in my opinion, it's like an expression of love for whoever it is that you're having that conversation with. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's not that he doesn't care, it's that he's willing to separate, like, their reaction is their reaction, it's not
It's on
me,
them, which
right?
is so that's a mature person understanding that.
Yeah.
So
The
I don't know.
whole
That's a hard question for me to answer. I think that ability is probably there for me. I've definitely had my fair share of tougher conversations with players, and some of it includes the things that we've covered today, where it's listen, this behavior needs to change, or you're gonna be a shitbag, But I think you also need to gain. I think you have to gain that trust to be able to say something like that too. I'm sure that I'm sure that this guy that you're describing will say this to people that like maybe they don't have that trust formed with, or maybe they're just like a relatively new person. But sometimes things have to look a certain way. And to put it simply, it's like the standard is the standard, and if you're going to be working with me, like this is the standard that needs to be upheld. So,
hmm
but that goes into integrity as well.
absolutely.
I mean, I think I would say I would say preparation is something that I admire in some in some guys that I want to learn more about. Like and when I say preparation, it's just like finding ways to be prepared for unknowns, so to speak. Like I feel when you're operating in an environment that you're comfortable in, which is that's my life. I've been in a relatively similar environment for most of my life. Like if you use I've been on a baseball field since I could walk, so sometimes you kind of not underestimate, but you don't think about what's unlikely to happen. And I admire people that when something completely out of the blue happens, they're seemingly prepared for it, whether it's through experience or it's through some sort of mental crash course that they've gone through themselves. But I want to find ways where I can at least seemingly feel a little bit more prepared for those atypical
Yeah,
plays.
they're in a spot where they can respond to something like that instead of just reacting to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether they've seen it before or something tipped them off and they kind of anticipated it a little bit, or
hmm
maybe they had a different perspective on what's important or not.
Basically a
Uh,
wizard, or a Jedi. This guy just like knew it was coming. Keanu Reeves, that shit. Just
there's um, I think we've it had to have been with you, but maybe I've had this conversation a little bit with someone else where it was with you. Um, we talked about how like Jedi and the ability to use the Force. It's like you can see things before they happen. You can anticipate. Um, I like that concept because obviously, like in the Star Wars series or whatnot, like someone goes to shoot you with a bullet and you realize they're going to shoot you before they pull out the gun, and you know where the bullet's going before it gets there, and you can deflect with like that's okay. That's not humans, but um, there is something that we already possess in our ability to anticipate. Like this might happen, and you could kind of see it unfolding even if it's like a half second before it does. And that, I think that ability can be improved as you get reps, as you prepare.
Well,
Um,
it starts
uh,
with being aware. You know,
sure.
if you're somebody who is aware, like you've driven in New York before. You drive in New York enough. I feel like a fucking Jedi when I'm driving on the in New York.
Hmm.
I'm like, up, this guy's about to try to cut me off, and then it happens, and I'm like, see, knew it.
Yep.
Like, you know, so it's. I think it comes with awareness. I think awareness is so key, because if you're just, you know, again, little pea brain and your head's down, like pick your goddamn head up and observe your surroundings for once, please.
Yeah. Yeah. The awareness, the ability to zoom out. Um, that's something Jocko's talked about in, I forget which book, but where he's like, something he had to learn as a leader is like you have to be able to disconnect from what's going on and see the big picture, whether physically like getting to some higher ground and like watching what's going on, or to just mentally put yourself there so you can make a decision, like a zoomed out decision versus just being caught up in the moment. And that's been a shift for me. Not a shift because I haven't really started to make it yet, but I'm at least starting to think about it. Where I was actually talking to one of our other coaches about this a few days ago, where between our manager, who's been a manager for a while, and he's also coached in winter ball in the DR, where every single moment of the day is let's figure out a way to win tonight, which is way different from how we are in the minor leagues. And then this other coach I was talking with had managed in the minor leagues for years, and I was starting to ask them like how they look at the game, and computer would be the same way. You guys kind of talked about it a little bit when we had them on, but like their perspective of the game, I asked them like, what are you looking like? Let's say you're managing the game right now. Like, what is it that you're looking at? What are you thinking about? And he's talking about it's like, well, he's like, well, for him, he's an infield coach. He's like, I'm checking the infield defense. Like that's my responsibility. But outside of that, I'm staring at the pitcher, and I'm not looking at, is he opening up? Is he staying through his curve? Like nothing mechanical. He's just looking at what's his demeanor like. How's he handling certain situations? Is he like, what's the catcher doing? What's the catcher's body language, right? Like, are the guys focused? Are they wandering between pitches? Like, what's the mood like? What's the vibe like? Is like I'm always trying to be two or three hitters ahead. Okay, if he gets on, what are we doing with the defense? If this guy hits a double and now suddenly there's a man on third, like are we going to play upward back? Like those sorts of things. And I was telling him, I was like, when I had coached in high school and I was coaching a travel team, I was nowhere near on that level, but those were the kinds of things I was thinking about. As a player, I thought when I coach, I'm going to be so locked in and helping the catcher. And then as soon as I started coaching a team, I like never paid attention to the catcher.
Yeah.
Because like there's so many other things that have to, like you're watching 8 of the players, you can't look at how the catcher's giving a sign.
Well, you know
every
the
pitch.
age-old adage where if you're coaching and you don't talk to your catcher the whole game, they're pretty good, you know?
Right. Yeah, I was just thinking that. But
That's valid as fuck. I believe in that.
yeah.
And listen, I don't know in your experience, you know what? Don't answer this question, but I don't know if in your experience you've had catchers where the whole time you're like please do this. Well, don't this. No, no. Like I've coached some teams where the catcher wasn't great, so to speak. And again, don't answer that question, but um, I've had the opportunity to coach many good catchers, and I'll tell you what, man, like it's real. It's real. I only hope that at some point in my career, I instilled that level of comfort in my coaching staff at times, because I've been fortunate enough to have some really good catchers, and it allows you to, like you're describing, focus on the other things in the game. And honestly, too, I think I do a pretty good job of preparing the catchers that I coach for the game. So I think because I understand their skill set and their personality, I think I don't have to worry about them, you know? With them, it's more like
Yeah.
physical check-ins. Like, do you feel good? You know,
Hmm.
hey, how like I can use them for like another lens on the field. How's so and so looking on the mound? What do you like right now? What don't you like? Like, what do you see? And honestly, I love it too because then we'll be in a practice and one of the catchers came up with a pickoff play for us this year, and it was a nice pickoff play, and like a running scheme too, because it's the ownership thing. I love that shit.
Yeah. So yeah, what I was, um, no, I think that's definitely a strength of yours. I've seen you in action with that,
Hell
and
yeah.
I've in the when I first got into pro ball, I was mainly catching. Also did some base running, but honestly, I did a pretty poor job of coaching base running or just even doing it.
And outfielding.
Um, the outfield stuff, a lot of it was throwing, so like I felt okay with that and some of that, but I wasn't too diving in too much. It was more like our guys just getting their work in and whatnot.
Grinding.
Yeah, I was more in the realm of like specialists. So if a outfielder was like he needs to work on throwing and it was like very mechanical and like technique focused, then I was good with that. But if the guy was like not in position all the time, like I wasn't super locked in with that. I was also watching the catcher, so you can't look at the outfielders and the catchers at the same time.
It's tough.
Um,
Your eyes
but
are just
main
like,
yeah, mainly I was focused on the catcher, and I would stare at the catcher and just watch how they did everything. So like I could tell you like I didn't have to go look at video after because I was watching, like I was just staring at them, which was good. And then as a hitting coach, like that's been the case. I'm staring at the hitter, like what's his timing, like this and that. Um, but just when you're staring at that part of the field and you're just focused on how guys are moving, then you lose sight on is the pitcher tipping or is he changing his rhythm or did you notice that so and so on second base had like a different lead or and that like zooming out I think is necessary for me because I spent the last couple of years just zoomed in just by nature of what my responsibilities were. But there's just a whole other way to look at the field, and I've started to change that too in the cages, at least in my awareness of like I could sense if everything was kind of dull or guys weren't really upbeat or something like that. Like I could feel it, but I was also like just okay, you're focused on what the hitter's doing, and if something goes wrong, like if a player came a couple minutes late from outfield defense, or if something was wrong with the cage that they did some event and like something was screwed up. Like it's so easy to get focused on that because you're so zoomed in on did we get our 3 rounds of this drill in. But like as I've been a little bit more aware these last couple of weeks of what's going on as far as like zooming out and just what things are like, I've found myself getting frustrated less, which is also it's worth noting and it's in conjunction with me starting to meditate again and then also like start journaling more. So that's helpful. But I think just shifting the perspective to more global has just been less frustrated with like the little things not going perfectly.
well, it's sort of practicing what we are preaching too. We talk about when hitters are trying to find success, being able to alter their kind of thought paradigm and how they approach going about their business, and when oh, I'm not hitting well, and then we paint the broader picture, and it's like, well, you don't swing at good pitches. Whereas they're thinking it's the swing that's not going well. For you, it's, this hitting function we have going on right now is going well, but it is not going well. But maybe you're locked in on a particular result. You're looking for something. You're going in with a predisposed expectation of what it should look like, and you're looking for that instead of like the overall feel of how things are.
Oh, 100%.
And
Um,
that's kind of key. I'm kind of that's nice. Just real having that kind of a realization that when you have those predisposed expectations, you're likely to be disappointed because, you know, like I think visualization's important, but like how you visualize success is also really important too. And being able to have different things qualify as successful.
I like that concept of visualizing, because when we plan out the schedule of like, okay, we have the cage during this time, how many groups we're going to have, when are they coming in, who's there, like, okay, what's the pitcher throwing, how am I going to structure practice. I do a good job of being able to see what we have on paper and visualizing like how it's going to go. Like, okay, we're going to spend this much time doing this. It's going to take this much time. We'll have this other coach helping. We'll do this machine. The transition will go like this, and like having it all like worked out. Okay, this is what we're going to do. And then if it doesn't go well, it's just like,
Yeah.
because the thing I visualized was good. It's like, this is how the day's going to flow. But then if something changes, like you could be frustrated that the plan didn't go well, which to a degree, like the plan should go how it intends to go. But if something comes in and is replaced with something a little bit off the cuff that's positive, having the perspective of like, this is not how today should have went, and today was worse. But what ended up happening is probably going to set us up for something better in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And being able to just like trust that or be comfortable with it.
Yeah. The lessons are the lessons that you're learning. It's so interesting. It's you have some realization that this is the way things should be because we've talked about it time and time again with what needs to be focused on or emphasized in regards to what the players should be doing, and then, you know, sometimes you kind of lose sight of that as a coach because the game says that this should look like this. The game says that this should look like that. And in reality, that's not, that's not always the case.
Something we haven't really done. We're kind of waiting, I think, until Cap got on or what. But I do want to get your thoughts or your breakdown on how the season went.
I think like knee-jerk reaction is usually when you don't win a conference tournament and make some sort of a regional appearance or a push to a super regional, a push to a World Series, it's easy to say that there are shortcomings. But I think that we did a pretty good job of making adjustments. I think we did a pretty good job of like some guys really stood out and had fantastic years. Some guys that, were in their last year. I enjoyed this team quite thoroughly. I think that at times there was the whole, hey, just it's because it was pretty much the same, if not the exact same team as last year, minus maybe a couple guys here and there. And when I say a couple, I mean like literally a couple, but there were points where it's like, hey, just because you've been there and done that does not mean that that's gonna just kind of happen again. And some of the things that I had said early on to them was, we've won the conference tournament 3 years in a row, but, don't we want to win a regional one time? Like, we need to obviously do something differently, or something, some sort of emphasis like something more needs to be sort of emphasized if we're going to kind of elevate ourselves. And then it's balancing that with the whole idea that I've been in a situation as a college baseball player where I'm in my last year and I'm trying to like find that extra gear, which you've been pretty successful up until this point. If you could just be successful and some of your teammates can be successful, and maybe maybe we're successful at the same time. That's when you win baseball games. It's not, you performing more than you're expected to. It's us all kind of flowing at the same time, which did not really seem to happen to with us this year that much, where it seemed there were some really good flashes of what we can do as a team, but baseball happens, man. And when you're in a conference tournament, things have to go your way. And there were a couple of things that didn't go our way. Like we scored 3 runs in 2 games. You don't win a lot of baseball games doing that. And it was just at the wrong time. So, and it seemed like the hot guys were coming up with nobody on base, and the guys that weren't so hot were always coming up with guys on base, and a couple uncharacteristic errors in the end. But like again, that's the game that we chose to be involved
that's
with.
the difference between like the teams that win those close games that end up having really good records. It's just executed on those, or maybe it's a short enough season where you're just hot for the right time. Like you could be playing really good baseball for half a college season just on a whim, just because of it's what do you guys play, 20 something
40
conference games?
Yeah, 20-something conference games, like 40
right.
games overall.
Yeah, so you could be playing good baseball for 3 weeks, and all of a sudden you're the best team in the league.
Yeah, but then it goes into another gear. I mentioned this before on here several times. The freshman class is really fun. Like they're such good kids. They're gonna be sophomores now, and our now senior class is very small. So a big part of our focus is on the sophomore, now junior class. It's like, no pressure, but the success of this program is really kind of pivoting on that 2023 high school graduation year. That's now they're going to be juniors. Like the success of our program really lies in their hands, because we're returning like 2 catchers that caught a lot of games, our first baseman, and our second baseman, and that's about it. 1 outfielder that started a bunch of games for us. So it's going to require us, recruitment wise, maybe going out and getting a couple guys that could fill some of those roles, but also, and that's been a lot of the exit meeting type conversations where, hey, like our success, we're riding with you, man. Like if you want to continue the standard and continue the standard for success in this program, like it's going to require you to do some work and be ready for that.
I have a question off of that. So a conversation you and I have had before recently, this concept of like good versus great versus elite. Not in regards to your team, but I'm going to ask it in that sense. Like the idea, you could put the different tiers and different, like you could define them however you want. But basically, like, okay, there's some behaviors that put you from a little bit above average, like you're in the good category. And then there's a certain other set of behaviors or abilities that really puts you in the, like, okay, this guy's great. Like he's upper 10% or whatever. He stands out above the rest. And then there's this extra category of being elite where it's like, this guy is unmatched, is just on another level that people can't get to. And the conversation that we had was more in lines to ourselves, which I guess we could chat about that more. But I'm curious in the scope of Division III baseball, and I'm also curious about this because my youngest brother, Jason, played club hockey, which it's club, but the way hockey's structured, it's a very similar. He actually played at Farmingdale, but it's a very similar type of level, in my opinion, to what you guys are at, where it's good baseball. It's a definite step or two above high school. He's got a good team. You guys have a good program. Like it's good. It's good baseball, hockey. It's not. They're not Division I players. They're not guys outside of maybe a handful. There's not guys that want to play pro ball. Like they're there to win, but it's not their life. So how do you guys as a staff push guys to get better, or what's it like, I guess, to you want guys to get better and you want to win and you want to have this high standard, but the reality is, at least in terms of
It's Division
baseball,
three baseball.
yeah. So like, tell me about that.
Um, well, I mean, that's part of what I was going to talk about next too was like the message to them was like, hey, step it up in some regards, or hey, continue on what you're doing. Hey, like let's be sharp, let's be ready, like those kinds of conversations. But at the same time telling them success might look different for us the next couple of years, and that's okay. Because success comes in many different forms. Like if we're a team that doesn't bang the ball as we have the last couple of years, like okay, that's fine. Let's be stellar defensively. Let's be really good on the mound. It's all right. Maybe we don't have. Listen, maybe I leave myself open to surprises as always. But maybe we. But the two of the starting pitchers that we just said goodbye to because they graduated were, like fucking incredible. Like low ERAs, high strikeouts, like just incredible pitchers, guys that you're never guaranteeing, but you're expecting a win when they're on the mound. So maybe it doesn't come in the form of one guy going the distance every time he gets the ball. Maybe it's two or three guys that game. So we let them know that too. But what does that look like for us to elevate is just attention to detail. Like we got a lot of guys that are going to be pushing for playing time next year. So making sure that our skills are we're paying attention to the guys that are going to stand out in the fall. We're paying attention to, the voids in leadership and how what leadership looks like to them. Because like any other college team, there are good leaders and there are bad leaders, and there are guys that fall in between, and there are guys that assume no leadership responsibility. But it's as much as we need to get these guys prepared, we also need to see where they take the culture of the team. You know what I mean? Like we have to allow them to be accountable for what it is that's going on, because they have the structure. They know what practice is going to look like, but where is their focus going to be when we are practicing? Like, are they going to be a group that makes sure that we have all equipment needed to start practice on time? Are they going to make sure that, like, a certain intensity is present when we are practicing? Are they going to make sure that the physical standard of the team is met, because you only have so much time with your players at the Division III level in a fall baseball environment? Like it's going to be a lot of watching and a lot of like evaluating in that regard. And then when we need to step in and influence certain things, whether it's a culture thing or whether it's a logistical thing, we're going to have to step in and do that too. I hope that answered your question.
It's got me thinking, which is something that I want to get better with on the podcast is we can get, I say we, it's probably more so me, can get in this like rhythm of, especially when we have a guest on, of like someone joins, they finish saying something, and I immediately have to chime in, or one of us has to chime in and say like, yeah, let's continue, like this is what I think, let's continue it, or like immediately have a next question.
Next question.
But the truth is, I mean, listen, these are long form episodes. Like when you and I have a conversation, and if you say something that's got me like thinking about something else, what I would naturally do is just bring that up.
Shut the fuck up right now. I got something to say.
Well, no, I'd let you finish or whatever, but if something comes up, then like I'd switch topics, and it wouldn't be like discrediting to what you just said. It was just like, oh, this.
That's just how people talk.
Yeah, well, it's a skill to just talk how people talk when we're doing these.
No, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. So something I wanted to ask you. Yeah. So yeah, it answers the question.
Next question, bro.
It's more of like less interview question and more like what do you think about that? But
It's a lot.
yeah,
It's a lot, dude. It really is. But you know what? Like, we're not fucking as Coach Elliott and I say, and as I've said with Mark too, guys that I've coached with, like, we don't fucking play the games. You know, like if no responsibility and accountability is assumed on the player's part, we're gonna suck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Cap can't jump in and take an at bat and play fucking shortstop. I can't jump in and take an at bat and catch. Elliott's not getting on the mound. Phil's not playing in the outfield. You know, like, we can fucking do everything that a good coach does. We can have all the hitting things set up. We can, we can have every day set up for them. We can fucking set the hack attack up to work on hitting velocity. We can set it to work on breaking pitches. We can do PFPs until fucking guys could do it with their eyes closed. But if they don't give a fuck about it, we're gonna suck. Like, and that's I'm not saying that I'm okay with that, but like that's just the truth.
yeah, there needs to be a level of detachment.
Yeah. And I'm saying, when I say that that's okay, it's in the grand scheme of life, you know? Like, if we're not the best baseball team in the fucking skyline, like, I can't go off the deep end and hate my life. I'm not gonna do that. I have a responsibility to my friends to be a good person and my family to be a good person and to be present for them as well. But like, ultimately, that's what's exciting about it too. Like, us as a staff over at Joe's, we're like, that's why we like this shit though, because it's the unknown and it's exciting and it's cool, and you're surprised, and then, holy shit, I never expected this guy to fucking be like this. Like, whoa. And then, there's disappointment too. Like, ah, damn, this guy didn't pan out the way you wanted to. But you still have a connection with that player. At our level, anyways. I'm
Yeah,
sure, at some of the higher levels, it's like, fucking see you later.
that you the thing I was gonna kind of transition to sideways, and then you ended up just hitting it, was for you, how do you think about, we've talked about this a little bit, like for you personally, how do you think through, or where do you think you stand, or how do you think about that concept of like good, great, elite, and those different tiers? When you and I had talked about it separately, it was the concept of like, what being great or being elite at something, like what does it require? The it's easy to say sacrifices. Sean O'Neill would say choices. Um, but
It's like
like how
focus
do you,
too. Where's all your focus? If you're elite, all your focus is on the one thing.
right?
You're probably a shit cook. You probably, like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like,
That's actually along the lines of what I'd written down. So
if you're elite, you're bad at cooking. That's weird. Unless you're elite at cooking.
right, then you're probably bad at something else. But yeah, the no, like that concept of like I've said this to you, and it's like if I decided I want to be a major league hitting coach, I want to be a director of hitting, I want to be a hitting court, like those sorts of things. I know what I would have to do. I would spend a ton of time like diving into the science behind it. I'd listen to podcast after podcast of different hitters speak. I would be talking with our R&D staff all the time about like different things we could do. I'd be exploring new technologies. I'd be on the phone with different companies that have these different things, and it would just be like be obsessed with that. And I've seen people do it, and it's really impressive. Um, but I also see some of those people, and again, their choices. But I see some of those people, maybe the time they spend on like their physical nature isn't there, or the sleep, or maybe they aren't with their family, or whether that means wife, kids, or just parents, brothers, friends, whatever. Like they're not with them much, or like you said, like they're super good at this, but they struggle to like get in a car and drive somewhere. They need help with like things that would seem mundane. And it's like, okay, is that like, yeah, the title and the pay and the experience would be really cool, but like, is that day to day? Like, is that how you want to be? And like, truthfully, like, it's not.
Yeah.
So then the question then becomes, it's like, if I don't want to be elite at this thing, then is that sort of like giving up on a childhood dream? Is it sort of like taking your foot off the gas? Is it like succumbing to mediocrity? And like those are thoughts that I've had. I question that often. And when you were talking about when you were just framing it with St. Joe's, I was like, I wrote down, you could be elite at something. So say hitting coach or whatever, or, Division III baseball head coach, or you could try to be elite at the version of yourself or whatever holistic.
You just be like a good overall well-rounded individual,
Right.
and take
Like,
care of yourself and the people that you care about, which will make you better.
yeah, and that's been the path I've chosen, but not out of some super like wise place or having some great foresight. It was more like I want to be working out for 2 hours and then train this, and then I want to learn about meditation and mental performance. Not because like, yes, I want to help the players, but really it's just for me. Like I want to spend time talking to you about these sort of things. I want to call my parents often and talk to this girl I've been seeing. And it's like when I pour myself into those things, like I'm saying no to things I could be doing, but I find that like my experience is just better. I think then what happens is, and I've seen this in, we could list off people that we think really highly of as coaches. They're really good at that, and then they end up, in turn, it might be slower, but they end up creating better relationships with players, and they end up, when they rise to different levels, they succeed at them. So I don't know. It's just a different way to frame that, or to, yeah. I mean that conversation, or that concept of like, I don't want to be the best in the world at this one specific thing, can feel like am I just agreeing to be middle
Well, it's like,
class
what are you
mediocre?
fucking seeking then?
Right.
Are you, if you're, to bring it back to fucking like Star Wars, bro. If you're seeking power, like you often end up being one of the baddies. It's just true. Like if you're chasing that title, like people always say, oh, this industry's cutthroat. This industry's cutthroat. Like, okay, what does that imply then? That implies that you're gonna do whatever it takes, which might put your morals into question, your ethics into question. And for somebody like myself, in regards to being a baseball coach, like I would much rather be good to the people that I'm around and not be the known as the greatest baseball coach of all time. And I'm okay with that. You know, I'd rather see that this kid that I'm training might lack in some social skills, might have some confidence issues, but they enjoy playing the game and they want to be better. So okay, like let's talk about those things too. Let's it might maybe it does maybe we don't become the best hitter we do that day, but maybe we improve on our confidence. Maybe we get a little bit better at some other things on that day.
Yeah, it's like, do you look up to the people that have the titles, the positions, or the whatever, the status or whatever?
I've just
Like, do
found
you actually
that
look up?
I've just found that when I got to the end of my playing career, like the people that I admired along the way were the people that I felt like cared about me. Like I think about like the Coach Zadern and like the Tommy Caputo and like and some of the and some guys in between, just to name two guys that we've talked about before, that I'm like, I can talk to that guy whenever. I can pick up the phone and unfortunately, God rest his soul, I can't talk to Z anymore, but like I could pick up the phone and call Cap and talk to him about anything. And he means it. And he still has those kinds of conversations with players to this day, I would assume. Well, I know. But like that stuff means more to me than the guy who fixed my fucking swing. So I've always tried to be like that with my players. I've always, like, a lot of travel coaches, and reasonably so, like, talk about how much of a nightmare travel baseball coaching can be. I was like, yeah, of course it can if you look at it like that. But at the same time, like, I've met some really great people. I've had, I still have like parents of the kids that I've coached in the past that'll like follow me on social media, and they'll like send out a message every now and then, and it's nice to see. Or it's just they'll just like a Instagram story that I post or something, which is always nice. And now I see like kids that, I mean, I say kids, but now they're young men, but guys that I coached years ago, and now they're graduating college. Some of them are becoming coaches. They're becoming like professionals, and not in baseball, but they're becoming like, they're getting jobs and careers and becoming teachers. And it's like cool to have conversations with them and them talk about some of the experiences that they had when they played for me, and that they look on that in a positive way. I'm like, fuck, maybe I am doing something pretty well.
Yeah. No, I agree. I feel the same. The the follow up question, or the next question, is how do you keep that focus on those things while also making enough money or having a like work life dynamic that is sustainable?
Um, I don't know. When you let me know, when you find out, you can let me know. But that's for me personally. That's a more involved conversation. But I think you need to make sure you like you talked about and didn't really allude to. You kind of said it. Like if you're taking care of yourself and checking the boxes for yourself, keeping yourself interested and interested in what it is that you're doing, whilst also looking out for your own well-being, then you can kind of operate at an efficient level at what it is that you're doing, whilst also still being excited to do those things, having the energy to do those things, and then having the funds to do them as well, which is a little bit of a tougher question.
Yeah, I think you gotta put yourself in a position where you're just operating at your best.
Yeah, no,
Um,
100%.
and I've said this before. I felt like when I said it before, it might have been on. I said it on a few different occasions. Once with like Zach, maybe once with Tim Lamont, and probably elsewhere. But um, where was I headed with that? Losing my train of thought more often than I did 5-6 years ago. Biggest difference as a coach.
Yeah.
No, but what I was getting at was you can put more into like the giving side of it, or whether it's preparing or doing everything you can to look at video of certain guys, or to have the perfect practice plan, or to be this or that. But like if you show up and you're stressed, you haven't seen your family, you haven't talked to them, you haven't exercised as much as you should or want to, and like you show up to that player, like it's at some point like you're not going to make a good decision.
Yeah, but
Or
because you're also not going to be satisfied with like yourself.
right.
Like you're gonna get frustrated more easily. You're going to be a little bit, maybe be a little bit short with somebody. That's, if you're not taking care of yourself personally, like you're not going to, like you said, be able to be at your best for whoever it is that you're interacting with.
Yeah, I guess it's like prioritizing that. That's something, like reflecting on this year thus far. uh, well, the season. I mean, spring training started in March, but that was a whole other thing. But from April through May, and now we're halfway through June. The I made a decision back in November when I was given a choice between low A and high A. High A is obviously a higher level. You know,
More
you
elite,
could, yeah,
obviously.
you could view it as you're halfway to the big leagues. I don't know if that's really fair, but sorta. Um, I've been at that level before, not as a hitting coach, but um, and I don't know. I chose low A because of the environment, what the environment would be like, in particular, who I would be working with, and who the players would be. Um, and I was like, you know what? Like, I wanna go to a place where I could have done a okay, maybe slightly good job in Asheville at high A, but being in low A, I felt I had the opportunity to do like a really, really good job. Um, and um, I think that's been the case. Not because I think I'm doing such a good job, but the overall things are going really well because of who's helping.
Yeah.
Like our manager and just the other staff. It's just like there's things are like there's challenges coming up. Like we have some players that are struggling, and we've moved up some guys that have been doing well, or some guys that have been doing well have gotten hurt, or maybe starting to fall off a little bit. So like there's work to be done for sure. But like the performance environment's really strong, and it's a good lesson to learn because like from a maturity standpoint, I knew in November that it would, like, my gut feeling was like it would be a better move to go there. I would learn different things. I would have some different responsibilities. It would be a good chance to work on some different skills. But just the way things are going, like I'm learning that, like, okay, you pick a good environment and a good situation over the status or the pay, as long as it's comparable. Where in my case it'd be
Yeah.
the same. But
The bottom line is not everybody has that choice too. Sometimes you need to find,
yeah,
like, it's not always easy to, but sometimes
it's
you
the
need to
first time I've
find a
had that
way
choice.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, like, but I just wanted to call attention to the fact that if you don't have that kind of a decision, it might be more challenging to do the things like rest properly and feed yourself efficiently and exercise regularly. But making that time won't always be easy, but making that time is still does need to be a priority to some extent.
so it's now mid-June. Summer's underway. I have probably like 2 months. Yeah, 2.5. It depends on what summer means for different people. But what are you? Start with this. What are you most excited about for the summer?
I have a wedding to go to of one of my childhood best friends in Pennsylvania in mid-July. I'm going to a concert with my dad, my roommate, his dad. That's going to be fun. Yeah, probably those two things, honestly. Other than that, just, you know, getting in good shape physically. I'm kind of excited to do a couple camps this year, too. Like, I'm doing a couple camps with the facility I work out of, which is always a good time. But yeah.
Actually, that was something else I wanted to ask you about. How's the? Give me an update on training, physical progress, all that.
I mean, good, good. My approach has been like a little bit different. Starting tomorrow, actually, I'm going to change my approach to running just because I'd like to have a better relationship with running. I'm going to take the same approach that you had described to me in the past off the pod, just, building a tolerance physically for running. It's not so much the cardiovascular aspect of it that I'm worried about. It's more so like the physical upkeep in regards to running that I'm more not concerned, but what would like to pay a little bit more attention to. But yeah,
What are
it's
you going to start
everything's
with?
just running for. I'm going to do like a nice incline walk, and then probably run for like 5 minutes at a good pace that is manageable from a cardiovascular standpoint, but I'm literally only going to run for 5 minutes, and then I might do that like twice a week, and then try to go maybe a minute longer, and then just try to build off of that. And then once I find that I can do like a good pace for like 12 plus minutes, then try to do that, like see where I'm at mileage wise at that time with like when I say a comfortable pace, I mean like something that just feels good for me physically, and then probably go to, once I can get to like 12, 13 minutes, then, and considering what the mileage is, try to increase the pace to have like a certain amount of mileage in a time that feels suitable for me.
Yeah, what I had done, man, I forget what it was, maybe like 0.15 or maybe zero point 0.2 miles, but I did it just about every day. The only days I didn't were if I had sprinted or done something else that where I was on my feet, but like a quarter mile, and then at like a zone 2 pace or just like a easy jog. I think you might be a little bit where you're starting now is further along than where I had started. Similar thing where like from a cardio standpoint, could handle a lot. Like I could be in zone 2 for an hour just fine, but I could barely run in zone and at that type of a pace for more than a few minutes without something starting to hurt.
Getting old.
But yeah, um, yeah. But I mean that was true 5 years ago. So I think it's just has to do with lack of training it, especially like what you do in your teenage years, especially your mid to late teens. Like the kinds of things you're doing all the time,
Yeah.
like really set you up for what you're going to be able to tolerate or not as you get older. Like I'm so grateful that in my mid to late teens I was lifting really heavy, and I was like running sprints, and then obviously we were like throwing and rotating because those things I handle well still. The sprints kind of just because I'm not really built for it and a bunch of other excuses, but like the heavy lifting like really sets you up. Like if someone doesn't train like that in their late teens, early 20s, and then they start to train at like 30, they'll make progress, but it's going to be so much less than what it could have been.
Yeah.
And the same can be true for running, doing any sort of endurance work or agility type stuff. It like depends on what kind of sports or activities you're doing at that time. So if you're a baseball player or an ex-baseball player that hasn't been running a lot and decides that you want to, then yeah. But I took the advice of a former teammate of mine, physical therapist now, same boat as us, had been doing like strength and power work and not running, but then started to. His motivation for starting the former catcher, his name's Ryan Goodell. His a physical therapist and a very good one in New Jersey. His motivation to start was he was just looking into research and showing that apparently, contrary to popular belief, people that are running actually have less degenerative joint issues, assuming they're training well and checking a lot of other boxes. But the repeated impact in your body's adaptation to that is good as you get older. So he started, aside from the aerobic benefit, which is pretty undeniable, but but he started, he's like, it's going to be less than you think, maybe a lap around the track or a couple hundred yards a minute, like something less, but like do it every day or 5 to 6 times a week, and just like build that up when you can recover and like you're not sore and you feel like you didn't really even do it yesterday and you can hop in the next day. It's like then bump it up 10%, whether that's 10% further, for more time. Probably not pace, just because like you want to get good at running in a zone 2 or an aerobic pace, but a lower end aerobic pace. But so yeah, a couple in like early to mid-April, I was like, all right, enough is enough. I'm not going to try to go run for like 3 miles, 4 miles, and then my knees are swollen for 5 days. Like, let me do a quarter of a mile. It'll take maybe, I don't know, 2 minutes, give or take, and nice and slow, and then do that the next day, and like be like achy, and then just slowly chipped away at it. Now I'm up
Just
to
living life at a quarter mile at a time.
yep. Now I'm up to 3/4 of a mile, and then so that's been good. Like, and I'll do some longer ones. Like I'll do like a 40-minute run once, maybe probably like once a week, roughly. But it's been nice. The reason that I've wanted two reasons I've wanted to start running more, or really at all.
Marathon training, baby.
The first one is that I was always doing an incline walk on a treadmill, which is still my favorite kind of cardio. Low impact, and I can be on my phone, so I can be productive for 40 minutes to an hour. And it's very easy to control the pace, and there's no impact, so you can like, it's very pushy and muscular, which are, strengths, traits of mine. But I got to the point where I would have to like kind of speed walk uphill at a 15-degree incline in order to be in zone 2 for like 20 minutes until I got tired enough where I could slow down a little bit. But I was like, well, if I keep getting better at this, like I'm not going to be able to walk fast enough to get the cardio
I'm gonna have to
benefit I
run.
want. Like I'm going to have to run soon. I'm like, man, all right, well, better, but like my joints aren't able to handle the impact at all. And then separately, this girl I've been seeing, she has ran in the past and has wanted to get back into it, so it's something I could do with her. And then people like yourself are been doing some different running challenges. It's a fad. We'll see, but
Total fad. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
Running sucks. Fuck
yeah.
it.
Then there'll be some study that comes out. It's like, oh, people that are lifting weights and running are suddenly this, and then everyone will stop.
If
And then
you
it'll
lift
come-
weights,
yeah.
you're just gonna explode, combust. Also, if I could just get my shoulder to stop wanting to just be like that, that'd be nice too.
Yeah. You're a T-spine. That's been another big shift. Not
Just where he wants to be. He wants to be like there.
yeah. Yeah, the old upper back strength and T-spine mobility. But yeah, my approach has been, it's much more of like a daily thing. It's different daily mobility or activation stuff I'm doing. And then kind of checking the boxes with some lifting stuff. Just from a time standpoint, trying to do enough aerobically. I wish I just had more time to put into it. But
You'll
it's
never
like
have
that.
enough time.
Well, I have enough time in the off season, but I'm also not working much, so it's like this give and take, I guess. But yeah, I'm glad that you're excited to put in some more training, and that's always good.
Yeah, I mean it's fun, man. It feels good when I'm working out and training well. I feel better, more excited to do things. The old body in motion stays in motion. Doing other things is easier. So, and I'm somebody that has always enjoyed training, but I've gone through a period in my life where it wasn't really valued because it was like post-athletic career. Why the fuck am I doing this type shit? And like, yeah, it's fun and everything, but when, the motivation runs out, the discipline kind of is harder to attain. But then thankfully, through some friendship motivation and just being around the right people, I got back into it and I was like, fuck, I never want to just like be outside the gym for, insert amount of time. You just feel better overall. I feel better about yourself mentally and just the like the benefits are extensive until the science comes out with reasons why it's bad for you.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
No, I know. Just
There
get
might be
out
some
there, get out there and fucking move. It's nice.
I've never once regretted exercising too much. Now, like if you overload yourself
If you
and you
injure
get hurt or
yourself.
something, yeah, that's different. But like I've never Never been like, you know what? Like, I probably shouldn't have worked out today. I probably shouldn't have ran. I should have done this instead. That's like, I don't know if I've ever thought that to myself. It's always been like I said yes to this and I didn't train and like and you know in like little like here and there it's fine. It's good to have balance and to say yes to some other important things. That's just the way it goes. But when that becomes a trend, it's you know like your mental state just completely shifts for the worse.
Yeah. Idle hands are the tools of the devil.
Um, do you have any expectations for the fall or things coming up, or maybe shifts you're anticipating? Um, because we're
Um,
probably not going to do one of these episodes again for a couple months. So
I have. I mean, I'm hoping that recruitment stuff goes well for the summer. I know we're off to a pretty good start. Um, like you obviously can't work with the players really at all. Like no, yeah, you can't work with the players at all in regards to the college guys, but I'm hoping to see some guys that I've coached in the past like commit soon. So shout out to them wherever you are. Keep after it, and everything will happen on time for you. For me personally, just some other job prospects outside of baseball that I've been entertaining for quite some time, and you know, I'm I'm in the process for them, so I'm anticipating like, getting one of them ideally. Um, so just trying to stay on top of that stuff, and listen, I'm also I just think in regards to the training and coaching stuff, it's super fun and enjoyable for me. But I personally have just other parts of me that need to be tended to. Like you had talked about earlier, if you're not kind of listening to yourself and you're not challenging yourself in ways that you find stimulating, it can affect you negatively in some regards. There are other career paths and prospects that are stimulating and exciting to me that I find, I'm only going to be 28, 29 years old once for 1 year, actually, believe it or not. So, those are things that I've been entertaining a lot the past year, and those are things that I'm looking into. So I'm hoping that one of those pop up for me. And I don't know what that'll look like for me in regards to coaching, but the game finds a way of keeping you around, so I'm not really too worried about that.
yeah, and there's this type of conversation, the leadership or the interacting with people or this or that. That's I'm excited for us to expand that beyond just baseball. I mean, that's obviously going to be the main medium as long as the two of us are heavily involved in that, and that's always going to be the backbone. But I know you and I have aspirations to expand these conversations into other realms.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's another thing too. Is I wanted to mention in regards to what we do here. I look forward to having other types of individuals on. I had spoken to a friend of mine who, runs a construction company, and he was a baseball player and played college baseball and has a really interesting baseball story, and he's a successful businessman right now. So I talked to him about having him on sometime in the near future. Um, I have had conversations with a parent of a kid that I coached who actually had his had his own podcast. I can't remember. I think it's called Cafe Brew. And he's a real estate agent and just like a successful businessman, and raised a is a good dad. So I would love to have him on sometime soon. I talked to him about having him on. So just different types of conversations. If we can weave in athletics or baseball with these people that have other other career tracks and things they want to talk about on here, great. But if not, that's fine too. When we set out on this journey of podcasting, I know that's something we talked about. We joked about like, oh, if we could fucking have a Navy SEAL on here, that'd be great, because, like we talked about for a little while today, the game has an expiration date for us as athletes and even for coaches as well. There's life outside, and even while it's going on, there's life outside of it, and parallels and there are parallels to lessons that somebody who is a business person or in the armed forces or has some sort of a law enforcement career, like there are definitely parallels to the skills that they have that could be beneficial to somebody that listens to us for baseball. And ideally it would be nice to expand that audience too, and to include people of all walks of life, all careers, all paths, because that's the larger you have of a community, the more likely good ideas are to be shared. And the more, honestly too, some conflicting like theories and conflicting ideologies, which I think on the other side of conflict, lessons can be learned. So that's something for us personally, as this podcast goes, I would love to expand to, which I know we've talked about doing this summer, having some other types of individuals on here, which I'm always open to.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I think that's where growth comes from.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, you expand the types of people you're talking to, and the conversation can get a little less specific, but the more profound probably.
Yeah.
So like if there's carryover between a lot of other things outside of baseball, and sometimes those lessons stick more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the perspectives are better, because like, listen, at the end of the day, if you're standing on grass on a predetermined size field with a set of regulations of what can possibly happen, like the hitter has to stand over here and only one of them gets a bat, and they have to throw this object. Like there's only a certain number of things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
Whereas other walks of life are way more open-ended. So yeah, I'm excited for those, and looking to have those be, I don't want to give a percentage, but often those kind of conversations.
And listen, and shout out to those people who have been listening and tuning in on a weekly or bi-weekly or however often you've checked in with us. Like, your feedback is always really appreciated, and oftentimes a lot of the there's a lot of baseball junkies that, well, I won't say a lot, I don't think we're that popular, but there are a couple baseball junkies out there that love the little nuggets that are going out, talking about the scope of baseball as a whole, the scope of travel baseball, the scope of college baseball, and the couple of guys that work in pro baseball, yourself included, that talk about what that experience is like. It's nice to gain that perspective, but a lot of times I'll have a conversation with an individual that'll talk about the life stuff that's valuable and how they want their kids to listen to it, because
I mean, that's what we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Where it's using baseball as a medium to have like life conversations. So what better way to do that than to have some people that maybe are a little bit more experienced in life outside of baseball?
I guess we just gotta fucking make it happen, but we're doing it for you guys. It's just what we're doing.
All right, dude. I think that's a nice place to wrap it up.
Absolutely.
If there's anything else you want to add, then go for it. But
again, as you get in, if you're you're a baseball person, which you probably are, if you're tuned in at this point, enjoy the summer. In regards to the travel baseball people, like, it's a season, it's not a day. If you're angry about something, give it some time. Like I tell every parent that I've ever had a conversation with in regards to travel baseball, if you're upset about a lineup placement or playing time, like give it a day, let the emotions quell a little bit, and have a good conversation. You know, I'm not trying to make excuses for any coaches out there, but like I've said on here many times, I've never met a coach that's trying to make a player worse. So try to have that kind of an understanding moving forward, and know that your opinions do matter too. On the other side of that, your opinions do matter. Your care for your kid matters, and just have fun. It's baseball. It's a game. Have fun. Enjoy it, and enjoy the car rides to the freaking tournaments because that's something I won't be doing this year.
All right, dude.
Yep.
Good chat.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys. And yeah, shout out to all y'all. You guys are great. Kyle, you're the GOAT.
Work in progress.
Absolutely.
Actually, I think if you sum up our conversation, it's we're not trying to be the GOAT.
I mean, if you're trying to be the GOAT, you're probably like, I don't know, a Sith Lord or something.